We've got some developing news this morning. Judge Eileen Cannon has put an indefinite pause on proceedings in the espionage case made against former President Donald Trump in relation to his alleged retention of classified documents post-presidency. Judge Cannon indefinitely postponed key trial dates originally scheduled from October through May of next year. Meanwhile, in a completely separate incident, the former president has been accused of spilling the country's tea again. Former President Trump reportedly shared sensitive information about American nuclear submarines with an Australian businessman who is a member of Mar-a-Lago after leaving office. This, according to the New York Times, confirming ABC's scoop, which first reported the story.
Trump has found himself embroiled in the House Speaker's race, even floating the possibility of serving as interim Speaker if needed. But overnight, he endorsed Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan for the top spot in the lower chamber. According to reports, some Republicans would welcome the former president taking over the Speaker's gavel. But according to House rules, he is not eligible because of his felony indictments. So a lot going on in the Trump world. I mean, this delay in the trial. Come on, Eileen. Eileen Cannon, why are we doing this? Why are we delaying a trial? It seems to me that she's a little bit loyal to Trump still as a Trump appointee, but maybe there's another espionage case to be had with Trump just sharing his deep secrets that should be held within the United States government. Thankfully, he's not eligible for Speaker. I think the moment he found out he wasn't eligible is the moment he endorsed Jim Jordan. I think he would have liked to have that spot.
Oh, I'm sure he would have had fun with it. I mean, just the thought of him, gaveling in the House, and he wouldn't have delegated the House role or the Speaker role to anyone else, as is normally the practice, where, the Speaker of the House is not actually in the House chamber presiding every day. I think he probably would have presided all day most days, because I think he would have had so much fun, cutting off Democrats when their time ran out, things like that. Obviously, the rules about pending indictments made that impossible, and I think you're right. He went with the person who's probably most likely to be helpful to him and someone who has been his friend all throughout his presidency and since then as well. This whole issue of continuing to find out that he was talking allegedly about state secrets to people at his club, again, is just kind of creating this pattern. I think, this trial just in general is a mess, but the more new information keeps coming out, the more messy it becomes, because now the prosecutors have to, again, consider, are they going to add additional charges onto this? Is this something that they need to continue investigating? Maybe they thought they were done once they found all the, boxes of classified or documents marked classified allegedly in his bathroom and other places at Mar-a-Lago. But it's just procedurally, take the fact that the former president, now the 2024 Republican frontrunner, is the defendant in it. A case like this is just a mess all over the place, because you're dealing with sensitive and classified information. You have to get clearances for anybody who's really working on this case. Discovery alone is taking months and months and months, because there are so many documents that everybody needs to look at. And it's just, the fact that it's being delayed, I feel like, is more just a result of the fact that this is just a very, very messy case to bring, and less so because of any sort of allegiance or whatever. There have been a number of rulings that Judge Cannon has made that went against Trump. So I think she's proven that she's not, sort of pulling the strings to try to help this come out in his favor. But I do honestly feel bad for the judge having to oversee this case and all the attorneys on both sides, because it's just a disaster of classified stuff you can't say in open court, stuff that's going to have to be constantly, having bench hearings and stuff like that. It is a mess. And I'm glad that it's moving forward. I wish it was happening sooner, but unfortunately, it looks like we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for this to even get underway.
Yeah, I think there's already a framing on Twitter of this case where this is a Trump appointee. It's an indefinite delay. This sounds like she's sweeping this under the rug. I don't think that's the case. I think we know very well that this case wouldn't be moving forward if the judge felt this way. I think we know very well that Donald Trump is going to be tried for this in due time. And we've known from the beginning that there's a mountain of evidence to process, thousands and thousands of pages. Not only that, but you point out the security concerns and how much time that's going to take to get people with the proper clearance to handle this case and process the evidence. So I'm not surprised by this delay. I don't think it shows that our judicial system is in disarray because a Trump loyalist is handling this case. I really don't see that as a major problem here. I think Trump is going to get his day in court for this in due time, especially considering the fact that we have text messages where he says that he knows the these documents were not declassified when he was president, and I guess it's too late to do it now. So the fact that he's still having these conversations and we're having reports of him sharing classified information, I think suggests even more that they're not going to be able to let this go or sweep it under the rug if people are worried about that. In the speakership case, I think it's interesting he endorsed someone like Jim Jordan or felt the need to endorse anyone. As soon as Jim Jordan announced, I thought that this might be the next step, is that Trump is going to, throw his weight towards someone for the speakership role, because it's a tough thing to get consensus within the Republican Party. Who do they have? Tom Emmer, the whip, who probably hasn't been doing the best job considering how votes have been going in Congress among the Republicans. I don't think it's going to be Kevin McCarthy again. I don't think they're going to go for Ro Khanna's plan, as Matt Gaetz has wanted them to, so that he can remove this motion to vacate. I really think the only way forward is that they're going to need a consensus candidate. And could Jim Jordan be that guy? I don't know. He's a bit extreme, but Trump throwing his weight behind him could be something that influences the decision of who's the next speaker a lot.
Yeah, and I think something that I've been hearing chatter-wise on the right, obviously, in addition to all of the concern over what the House is doing and how we're going to have to go through the speaker election again, given how messy it was back in January of this year, is a concern about what's going to happen to the investigations happening in the House into Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, the Biden administration, things like that. And for a long time, those investigations were sort of acting as a counterbalance to all of these indictments and investigations going on against former President Trump. And it was kind of providing the contrast to show that, this isn't an election that's shaping up in 2024 that's between, a squeaky clean guy and a bad guy. This is an election that's shaping up between somebody who, again, is under 4 indictments and somebody who continually has evidence coming out suggesting that whatever the official line was, whether it was I never discussed business with my son Hunter, to I was never in business with my son Hunter, to I never directly transferred money with my son Hunter, like what was happening in the House provided that sort of balance out of what everybody was talking about with Trump and the indictments that he's facing. And of course, on both sides, you still have the presumption of innocence. And so until anything actually comes of either of these things, you're just kind of working your way through this process with a nice, it's not nice for the American people, obviously, I think, to have to watch this happen in our politics, but this nice, even-keeled balance between both sides and who is going to be running for each party. But I wonder what you think. Is the House going to be able to keep the momentum up even after a speaker election? Last time it took some 15 ballots in 5 days. Are they going to be able to keep the momentum up on their side after a new speaker, especially if it pulls somebody like Jim Jordan, who's the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, out from that and puts him into leadership where he has a lot other concerns other than just, holding committee hearings and investigating the Biden family?
I love speculating about what could happen next year because there's so many possibilities. Let's imagine a world where they actually get their hands on some concrete evidence that there were payments from Burisma directly to Joe Biden. Yeah. Let's imagine a world where the Democrats have to have an open primary. That would be, I think, great for our democracy to have a real primary before a presidential race for the Democrats and not just have Joe Biden be shooed in. I think that would be amazing. But I do think there's a world where, the Republicans realize that they put someone in a position of power who really wanted it. Kevin McCarthy really wanted to be speaker, and the way he was making deals with Joe Biden and then breaking them, I think just goes to show that he was a bad leader. He wasn't able to represent the interests of the party in a way that was meaningful to members of the party. He had to make deals that clearly he didn't want to make good on in order to get in this role in the first place. And so I think the Republicans will be able to keep some momentum up if they get someone in the speakership role that has leadership abilities on a very basic human level. I don't think Kevin McCarthy does. I think Jim Jordan is a bit of a loose cannon, but he could surprise us. So there's a lot that could change in the realm of what's going on in Congress and what's going on in the bigger picture when we think about the impeachment inquiry and what's happening in 2024 as well. So I'm kind of optimistic that there could be a world where instead Kevin McCarthy says, you know what, let's bring this Ro Khanna plan to a vote. They have some negotiation. It might not be as monumental as it is in its current form, but they might get some regulations on insider trading in Congress. They might get some regulation on lobbying funds. I would love to see a world where that's the outcome here.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of what ifs, as you were just discussing, and we will be dealing with all of them and more when we come back with more Rising.